Welcome back to Battles of the American Civil War, and we are continuing our quest on to the first major battle of the war, Battle of Bull Run. Would a male boar be a bull? Is it a bull?
That's what it is. A boar? No, it's not a bull. It's just a pig.
I know, but bulls don't have to be... There's other bulls besides bulls.
Maybe a moose.
I think a moose is a bull, right? A bull moose? Right? Isn't that how it works?
I don't think so.
I think so. Are we going good?
I think a bull is just a fucking a male cow.
I think a bull is just a male bull.
No, bull.
There's bullfish.
Bowfish.
Bullhead.
Bullhead.
You get bullheads.
Bullhead.
Bull. B-U-L-L.
Yeah, bullheads.
Bull. Boston.
My pit's a bull.
We're moving on to Battles of Boonville and the Battle of Vienna on this episode. I don't think the Battle of Boonville is very long, but Vienna's I think a Class C or a B, actually. Boonville is a Class C, and Vienna is not a class at all. But either or, 2 battles here for you today, and then we got one more episode with about 6 battles that are little small skirmishes, and then we got our Bull Run battle coming up.
Bull Run,
which
Menascus.
Probably going to be a 2-parter because it's long.
It's gonna be a long, baby, long.
Just saw last week's episode was with Big Bethel, all that tactical shit, and all those people come. Oh my gosh, Bull Run's gonna be crazy.
Crazy. We're gonna have to slow it down.
Slow it down.
Slow it down. Explain this shit.
Explain it. Either way, Battle of Boonville is the first battle in our list today. It takes place June 17th, 1861, near Boonville in Cooper County, Missouri. Our first action in Missouri. Everything's been in Virginia thus far. Although casualties were extremely light, the battle's strategic impact was far greater than one might assume from its limited nature.
Ooh.
The Union victory established what would become an unbroken federal control of the Missouri River.
Needed it.
And helped to thwart efforts to bring Missouri into the Confederacy.
Right.
This was the first of 4 battles that were fought at Boonville during the Civil War. So,
so
Boonville, they wanted that Missouri River right there.
Spot. Confederate was like, they ain't gonna come for that right now. They're like, but their unions are like all in Louisiana right now. What makes me think they're not coming to Missouri? Nah, they'll be all right.
Union's not in Indiana.
Louisiana's
part of the Confederacy.
At the onset of the Civil War, Missouri, like many border states in the Union, was deeply divided over whether to support the United States under Abraham Lincoln or join the Confederacy under Jefferson Davis. Claiborne F. Jackson, the pro-Confederate governor, wanted his state to succeed. But Missouri's overall sentiment was initially neutral.
Like, why?
An elected state convention did not pass a succession ordinance as Jackson had hoped it might.
Oh, look at that. So, yeah, clearly they don't want to be then.
Right.
Well, however, pro-secession elements did not let the setback dissuade them. They seized the small federal armory in Liberty, Missouri, planning to subsequently confiscate a much more sizable stock of weapons located at the St. Louis Arsenal. This plot was temporarily thwarted by an energetic young officer, Captain Nathaniel Lyon. He allied himself with Missouri Congressman Frank Blair and anti-slavery German immigrants. What's up with the Germans in this war? German immigrants in St. Louis to secure the arsenal for the Union.
Okay.
This Nathaniel Lyon guy, I'm pretty sure, will play a role at Vienna as well.
Right. In the very process, Lyon used a mixed force of United States Army regulators.
We're the regulators.
U.S. Army regulars and federally enrolled Missouri volunteers, mostly ethnic Germans.
Who knew Missouri had a bunch of Germans?
Right. Lyon used these forces to capture the Missouri volunteer militia, which had assembled at Camp Jackson on the outskirts of St. Louis on May 10th, 1861.
And they were purportedly there for an annual drill that they held at the camp. Huh? That was by luck.
Right.
Or
was it?
I guess for them, by misfortune.
Right.
When Lyon unwisely attempted to march his prisoners through the streets of St. Louis, a deadly riot erupted.
Oh,
he captured them. Yeah, now he's trying to march them through the street.
Right.
Now a deadly riot erupted. The Missouri General Assembly convened an emergency session that night and passed a series of emergency bills creating the secessionist Missouri State Guard and granting Governor Jackson near dictatorial powers to take any actions necessary to repel invasion and suppress insurrection. Oh, jeez. By Missouri Unionists enlisted in federal forces.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so now I mean, yeah,
They're
states
forcing their way into the South.
pretty much, yeah. Well, half of Missouri, anyways.
Right. The new Missouri State Guard began organizing statewide in 9 decentralized military districts.
Well, now they're military districts.
Right. Initially, I mean, it's wartime. Initially structured around the independent militia companies of the pre-Camp Jackson MVM. State Guard authorities also worked to manage the large numbers of volunteers who flooded into Jefferson City to protect the state capital from a federal attack that Jackson supporters believed was very, very imminent.
What does this sound like? Is this 2018, 19, 20, 21,
Right.
22? Attempts were made to reconcile the two sides. A semi-formal truce was negotiated between General William S. Harney, commander of the Western Department of the U.S. Army, and Missouri State Guard Major General Sterling Price.
Okay.
Heard of that name. They agreed to maintain order in the parts of the state under the control of their various forces, protect the persons and property of all persons, protect the persons and property of all persons, and avoid actions which might excite conflict.
Okay.
Okay, they're like, let's not get this out of hand, all right?
Right.
We don't want to be. We don't want Missouri to become a battleground like
what
we've
you
seen
guys
in
have,
Virginia.
What you guys have now, you can control that. What we have now, we'll control that.
Try to mess with us.
Right. Harney unofficially agreed to restrict federal forces to metropolitan St. Louis. He generally agreed, though.
Yeah, keyword unofficially as well.
Right. Price ordered that the mustering of Missouri State Guard volunteers in Jefferson City be halted. Instead, potential guardsmen were directed to muster with regional commanders in 9 new military districts. The organizational course of action initially envisioned under the post-May 10th military bill.
So stay in your own districts, don't come out of ours, and we'll be all right, basically.
Yep.
General Harney understood that Price would hold the state for the Union, and, in fact, Price promised him that should Confederate forces enter Missouri, the MSG would fight the
Missouri State Guards.
Missouri State Guard would fight alongside the U.S. Army to drive the Confederates out.
Would they, though?
At the same time, however, representatives from Governor Jackson and Missouri's Lieutenant Governor Thomas C. Reynolds were meeting with Confederate authorities asking them to send an army into Missouri. Jeez. They promised Confederate President Jefferson Davis that the Missouri State Guard would cooperate with the Confederate Army to drive federal forces from Missouri and liberate the state.
Wait a minute.
So you got one side... So one side saying that the state guard's going to fight with them to drive the Confederates out, and then the Confederate guys, the governor's like, well, wait a minute. They said they would fight with us to drive the Union out. So what's going on here?
It's just like the secession.
What is it? Well, that's classic devil speak.
Right. Missouri Unionists felt that Harney's confidence in Governor Jackson and General Price was dangerously misplaced.
I mean, it sounds like it.
Yes. And that Harney's and that Harney's unilateral adherence to the truce was endangering the state in a whole. It's like, In a stream of letters and cables to the Lincoln government, they demanded Harney's removal. And eventually, on the 30th of May, General Harney was superseded recently promoted by Brigade General. Let's call him General. Where's your brigade? Where's your brigade? Where's your brigade at, General? It's over there, sir. Anyway, Nathaniel Lyon took over for General Harney.
Lyon, Jackson, and Price met one last time on June 11th at the Planter's house. Planters? Peanuts?
Yes.
Planter's house in St. Louis. Jackson demanded that federal forces remain isolated in St. Louis and that pro-unionist home guard companies of Missouri Unionists around the state be disbanded. Jackson made a wide variety of promises, but all his positions came down to the following. Federal abandonment of the state outside of St. Louis, disarmament of all Missouri Unionists, except those officially enlisted in the 4 regiments called for under Lincoln's April militia call, and no meaningful verification.
Okay.
Federal authorities would rely on Jackson's and Price's goodwill and assurances that they would hold the state for the Union. So they're this governor that clearly wants them to be part of the Confederates. They're trusting him to say, no, I won't let it go to the Confederacy. I'll hold it for the Union.
Right.
I mean, the Union are just, I don't understand these guys
Very
right
smart. In the face of Jackson's inflexible position, Lyon, according to Governor Jackson's secretary, eventually stated that rather than allow Jackson to dictate to the federal government, Lyon would see you and you and you and you and every man, woman, and child in the state dead and buried.
Jeez, dude, you didn't have to go that far.
Wow. Lyon concluded by turning to the governor and stating, "This means war. In an hour, one of my officers will call you and conduct you out of my lines.
Oh, man, that's a threat. Governor Jackson and General Price fled toward the capital at Jefferson City, arriving there on June 12th. They ordered the bridges on the main rail lines buried or burned.
Right.
Burning bridges? Let's talk about burning bridges, huh? After quickly concluding that Jefferson City could not be held, Jackson and the State Guard departed for Boonville the next day. Well, General Lyon promptly set out after them by steamboat with 2 federal volunteer regiments, a company of U.S. regulars, and a battery of artillery, about 1,700 men in all. Jeez. His goal was to seize the capital and disperse the State Guard.
Oh, all right.
He means business, this Lyon guy. I like him.
He needs to.
Well, time.
Right. Price hoped to buy enough time to consolidate State Guard units from Lexington and Boonville, though he planned to withdraw from Boonville if Lyon approached.
So now he's just running. He's like,
Right. Jeez.
Anywhere he goes, anywhere Lyon approaches, he's like, yeah, let's go.
State Guard Colonel John S. Marmaduke. His unit began organizing at Boonville, while Brigade General Mosby M. Parsons was instructed to take up a position 20 miles to the south in Tipton.
Okay.
At this juncture, Price left Boonville due to illness and joined the forces assembling at Lexington.
The dude went to Kentucky.
Right.
Well, this was unfortunate as it left the governor, who was a politician, in charge. Oh, yeah, you can't leave politicians in charge.
No.
Instead of retreating, Jackson decided to make a stand. Oh, geez, what are you, custard?
Jackson's last name.
Because he feared political fallout if he made another withdrawal. That's exactly why you don't let a politician in charge. Many of his men were eager to face the enemy, but they were armed only with shotguns and hunting rifles.
Oh, no.
And lacked sufficient training to fight effectively. Colonel Marmaduke was opposed to giving battle, but he reluctantly assumed command of the waiting state forces.
Okay. Well, General Lyon, meanwhile, had reached Jefferson City on the 15th of June, learning that Jackson and Price had retreated towards Boonville, leaving behind 300 troops of the 2nd Missouri Volunteers to secure this capital.
This is the capital. They just left it wide open, dude.
They left 300 troops there.
Well, no, I'm talking about Jackson and Price. They just left the capital.
Right.
And fled to Boonville.
So
as soon as Lyon gets there, he's like, automatically mine.
And those 300 troops.
No, Lyon left behind 300 troops when he advanced to Boonville.
He didn't go to Boonville.
Yeah, it's 2nd Missouri Volunteers. That's the Union.
It says Jackson and Price had retreated toward Boonville, leaving behind 300 troops.
To secure the capital, Lyon resumed his pursuit.
Leaving behind 300 troops of the 2nd Missouri Volunteers to secure the capital, General Lyon resumed his pursuit of Price on the 16th of June, landing about 8 miles below Boonville. He landed, landing below Boonville on the 17th of June. Informed of Lyon's approach, Jackson attempted to call up Parsons' command at Tipton, but it was unable to arrive.
Well, of course, he's 20 miles to the south. How do you think he's going to arrive?
Jeez, oh, Pete.
Jeez. Well, the battle itself was actually a little more than a skirmish.
Oh.
But it had one of the first significant land actions of the war. I thought Bethel did.
All right.
Is it, how long do you say it can't be one of the first anymore?
Right.
You know,
it is one of the first.
I guess it's the third.
Right.
So it's the third.
After 5, you got to stop saying
I guess so, right?
After 20. After 20.
One of the first significant land actions of the war and had grave consequences for the Confederate hopes in Missouri. After disembarking, Lyon's troops marched along the Rochport Road towards Boonville at around 7 a.m. Damn, these motherfuckers get started early. Mm-hmm. Part of Marmaduke's eager but ill-equipped State Guard forces waited on a ridge behind the bluff, totaling about 500 men. They ain't going to do it. They had no artillery support since it was all with Parsons at Tipton.
Oh, no.
What an idiot. Inexplicably, Governor Jackson, observing from a mile or so away, held his only reasonable discipline and organized command, the long-established Washington Blues,
right,
a militia company, usually known as Captain Kelly's company, in reserve. It would take no part in the battle.
No part in the battle.
Long-established. He held his only reasonably disciplined and organized command.
Right.
The long-established. So he didn't want it to take part in the battle?
I mean, you got to get rid of your losers first.
Yes. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. The long-established Washington Blues Militia Company,
right,
in reserve, it would take no part in battle. So he didn't even...
No.
He made sure they weren't going to fight? That doesn't make any sense. Why not?
Because he don't want to lose his good guys first.
Yes.
Lyon's command encountered State Guard pickets as they approached the bluffs, but Lyon deployed skirmishers and continued to push the men forward rapidly. The Union artillery, led by Captain Totten's battery, Company F, 2nd U.S. Lieutenant Artillery, quickly displaced...
I think it's light artillery.
Right. Quickly displaced sharpshooters stationed in the Williams Adams house. while Union infantry closed with the line of guardsmen and fired several volleys into them, causing them to retreat. This portion of the fighting lasted nearly 20 minutes. Some attempts were made to rally and resist the Federal advance, but these collapsed when the Union company flanked the Guards' line, supported by cannon fire from a light howitzer on the river steamer Augustus McDowell.
All right, look at Union taking care of business over here. Well, as Marmaduke feared, the Guards' retreat rapidly turned into a rout. The Guardsmen fled back through Camp Bacon. Oh, that's a good thing.
Nice.
And the town of Boonville. Some continued on to their homes, while the rest retreated with the governor to the southwest corner of Missouri. Lyon took possession of Boonville at 11 a.m. So what? 4 hours it took.
Right.
The short fight at Boonville and the State Guards' retreat earned the battle the nickname of the Boonville Races. Wasn't the other one
It was something.
Philippi Races?
Something like that.
Yeah. So this is twice now the Confederates have just ran away.
All right. Jeez.
Mimicking the public notice of strayed animals. Oh, so they left all their animals and everything. Oh, there's a lion there?
Jeez. Federal casualties were light, with 5 men killed or mortally wounded and 7 less seriously injured.
Okay.
There are no reliable figures of casualties for Missouri State Guard, but it appears 5 were killed or mortally wounded and 10 wounded, while about 60 to 80 were captured. Ooh. Lyon seized the State Guard supplies and equipment, which included 2 iron 6-pounder cannon without ammunition, 500 obsolete flintlock muskets.
So, no use for those.
I mean, you can if you have bullets. And who uses flintlock muskets anyway? 1,200 pairs of shoes. Hey, need those.
There you go.
A couple tents and food.
Most importantly, food. Yeah, good for him.
With 1,200 pair of shoes are nice.
Federal casualties were Sergeant Jacob Keebers, Private Marcus M. Coolidge, Charles O. Kelly. They were recorded as killed or mortally wounded. Private John Miller, Andrew Wood, Charles Clifton, Private Reddy, Private Finney, Thomas McCord, Sergeant Armstrong, and 2 anonymous soldiers were recorded as wounded. Missouri State Guard casualties were Jeff McCutcheon, Dr. William Mills Quarles, Isaac Hodges, Frank E. Hullen, and Mr. Woods were named as killed or mortally wounded.
Mr. Woods, huh?
Mr. Woods, Lane Bynum, Robert Withers, Clay Breadlove, William Brown, First Lieutenant R.H. Carter, Tip Garth, John Henderson, W.T. Marshall, Mr. Miller, and W.B. Napton Jr. are named as the wounded.
We got a lieutenant that's wounded. Well,
I like that they named him. That's cool.
Right. Well, the real impact of the Battle of Boonville was strategic, far out from proportion to the minimal loss of life. The Battle of Boonville effectively rejected the secessionist forces from the center of the Missouri state and secured the state for the Union once and for all.
Yeah, but when you ain't using that river for supply line, so how are you going to control the state?
Price realized he could not hold Lexington and retreated.
So what? That must be Lexington, Missouri, then.
I think so. Though he would return 3 months later to retake the city. Secessionist communications to the strongly pro-Confederate Missouri River Valley were effectively cut.
Yep.
And would-be recruits from slave-owning regions north of the Missouri River found it difficult to join the Southern Army.
I would say so. Got to cross that river. Ain't going to happen. Well, provisions and supplies also could no longer be obtained from this section of the state, obviously. A second result of the battle was demoralization. While the Missouri State Guard would fight and win on other days, most notably at Wilson's Creek and Lexington just 2 and 3 months later, respectively, which we'll have here, it was badly dispirited by this early defeat.
Right.
Yeah, you can't have low morale already this early in the war, man.
Well, General Lyon's victory gave the Union forces time to consolidate their hold on the state. While Marmaduke's disappointment led him to resign from the Missouri State Guard, he said, I don't belong here.
So, well, at least this high up of the Army.
Right. And seek a regular commission in the Confederate Armies just to put me out on front lines.
Right.
Marmaduke and Price would team up again during Price's Missouri raid of 1864, culminating in their defeat of the Battle of Westport.
Well, these guys clearly don't work well together.
Right, on October 23rd of that year, which in turn put an end to significant Confederate operations in the state of Missouri.
Yeah, they couldn't handle Missouri. Well, that's going to bring us 2 days later to the Battle of Vienna in Virginia, which was a minor engagement between Union and Confederate forces, obviously, on June 17th of 1861, with the Union trying to protect the areas of Virginia opposite Washington, D.C., and established a camp at Vienna at the end of a 15-mile railroad to Alexandria. As Union Brigade General Robert C. Schenck was transported in the 1st Ohio Infantry to Vienna. To Vienna by train. They were overheard by Confederate scouts led by Colonel Maxcy Gregg, who set up an ambush.
Uh-oh.
Compared with later operations, the battle involved only small numbers, with the Union fielding 274 infantry and the Confederates about 750 of infantry, cavalry, and artillery.
Ooh.
But it was widely reported by an eager press, and it worried the government, whose 90-day regiments were due to be disbanded. Yeah, there's been about 90 days.
Right.
They don't have no more volunteers, dude. They better start drafting. Did they draft in the Civil War?
I don't think so.
I think they did.
I don't know about that.
I think they had to have.
I don't know, man. Pretty much. It wasn't a draft. It was basically
mandatory,
right?
Right?
In the early morning of 24th May, the day after the secession of Virginia from the Union.
How many times are we going to rehash this?
Right. Union forces occupied Alexandria, Virginia, and Arlington, Virginia.
Arlington, Virginia. That's Arlington. That's where General Lee's house was. So
Right. Across the Potomac River from Washington, D.C. Union troops occupied the area up to distances of 5 miles from the river.
okay, so they got a pretty nice hold on the banks.
1st of June, a small United States regular army patrol on a scout as far as 8 miles from their post at Camp Union in Falls Church, Virginia, rode into Fairfax Courthouse in Virginia and fought a small and brief battle with part of a company of Virginia militia.
Yeah, the Fairfax Courthouse battle, that wasn't really a battle, right?
Right. At the Battle of Fairfax.
Right. The patrol brought back to the Union Army commanders an exaggerated estimate of Confederate strength at Fairfax Courthouse. Together with an even smaller affair the same night at a Union outpost in Arlington, the Battle of Arlington Mills, which means nothing.
Right.
The Fairfax Courthouse engagement made Union commanders hesitate to extend their bridgehead into Virginia.
Uh-oh.
On June 16th, a Union force of Connecticut infantry under Brigadier General Daniel Tyler rode about 17 miles of the Alexandria, Loudoun, and Hampshire Railroad line between Alexandria, Virginia, and 2 miles past Vienna, Virginia.
Hampshire, man.
Hampshire. Yeah, but is it Hampshire?
Of course. New Hampshire?
Yeah, but maybe it's Hampshire.
New Hampshire?
Hampshire.
It very well could be. They reported the line clear. Although one soldier had been wounded by a shot from the ambush, Confederate forces were...
How do you report the line clear when somebody just got shot from an ambush?
Right. Confederate forces were in the area, however.
Okay.
And it was apparent to the Union Major General Irvin McDowell, who was in charge of the department, that the railroad would not remain safe without a guard force.
Yeah.
Especially because he had received information the Confederates planned to obstruct it.
All right. Well, what are you going to do about it
He's like,
there?
I got this on good information. They're going to obstruct this.
Good information. Well, on June 17th, McDowell sent Brigadier General Schenck with 1st Ohio Infantry under the immediate command of Colonel Alexander McDowell McCook. Okay. Call him McMick. To expand the Union position in Fairfax County. Schenck took 6 companies over the Alexandria, Loudoun, Hampshire Railroad line, dropping off detachments to guard railroad bridges between Alexandria, Virginia, and Vienna, Virginia. As the train approached Vienna about 4 miles north of Fairfax Courthouse and 15 miles from Alexandria, 271 officers and men remained with the train.
Okay.
Do the Confederates know this, though?
Right. On the same day, Confederate Colonel Gregg took the 1st South Carolina Infantry Regiment, about 575 men, 2 companies of cavalrymen, about 140 men, and a company of artillery with 2 artillery pieces, 35 men, about 750 men in total. Dang. On a scouting mission, he took them from Fairfax Courthouse toward the Potomac River. It's like, you guys want to go do some scouting?
All right.
Gather about 750. Dang, what we scouting? Looking for ants. On their return trip, at about 6 p.m., the Confederates heard the train whistle.
Oh.
Well, they heard it in the distance. I'm like, by God, that's a train in the distance.
It's a whistle.
Greg was like, sure is. And he goes, let's move this artillery to a curve in the railroad line between the present locations of Park and Tapawingo streets in Vienna. And he goes, I'm going to place my men around the very guns.
Around these guns, these men will be placed.
Right.
Well, seeing this disposition, an elderly local Union sympathizer ran down the tracks to warn the approaching train of the hidden Confederate force. Good for you, bud.
Yeah, Union sympathizer.
Yeah, right.
He's a Unster.
The Union.
Like a Trumpster. He's a Unster. He's a Untard.
Uaga. Wait, that would be make Union great again. Muga. The Union officers mostly ignored his warning. No, just a bunch of idiots, dude. mostly ignored his warning, and the train continued down the track. In response to the warning, an officer was placed on the forward car as a lookout.
Oh, jeez. What's that guy going to do?
Come on, man. Right.
The Union soldiers were riding open platform cars as the train... As the train backed down the track toward Vienna. As the train rounded the curve, one of the men spotted some Confederate cavalrymen on a nearby hill. As the Ohio soldiers prepared to shoot at the horsemen, the Confederates fired their cannons from their hiding place around the curve. The Union force suffered several casualties, but were spared from incurring even more by the slightly high initial cannon shots and by quickly jumping from the slow-moving train and either running into the nearby woods or moving into protected positions near the cars. So now it's a fight for survival.
Right. Schenck ordered Lieutenant William H. Rayner to go back to the engine and have the engineer take the train out of range in the other direction. Schenck quickly followed Rayner. Rayner had to help loosen the brakes. Because the brakeman had uncoupled most of the cars, the engineer left them.
Oh, no.
He did not stop for the Union soldiers to catch up, but continued all the way back to Alexandria.
Damn right he did.
Schenck now had no means of communication and had to have the wounded men carried back to their camp in blankets by soldiers on foot.
Oh, no.
Oh, that train guy, the train engineer better got fucking jailed or punched in the face at least once.
I got hung, right?
Oh, jeez. The regiment's medical supplies and instruments had been left on the train.
Oh,
yeah.
jeez.
Oh, that engineer better not ever see that guy again.
You ain't kidding. Many of the Union infantrymen took shelter behind the cars and tried to return fire against Confederate. And they were confused from conflicting orders. They didn't know what to do. McCook reorganized many of them in the woods. So whoever was in the woods got McCook there.
Get over here.
Right. The guys in the cars, hiding behind the cars, they don't know what the hell's going on. The two forces were slightly out of effective musket range, and a few shots were taken by either side, so they were too far away. As darkness fell, the Union force was able to retreat and to elude Confederate cavalry pursuers in the broken terrain. The Confederate pursuit was also apparently called off early due to apprehension that the Union forces might be only the advance of a larger body of troops, and because the Confederate force was supposed to return to their post that night.
We're supposed to be at our post. Should we go? We don't even know how many is really there. There could be more.
All right. Confederates took supplies and equipment as were left behind and burned a passenger car and 5 platform cars that had been left behind.
Nice.
When the Union commanders at Arlington got word of the attack, they sent wagons to bring back the wounded and the dead, but these did not reach the location of the fighting.
Oh, man.
The next day, a Union sympathizer picked up the bodies of 6 of the Ohio men, and brought them into the Union camp.
A Union sympathizer. Okay.
Jeez. If they would have listened to the one Union sympathizer, maybe they wouldn't be in this position.
Oh, they don't care.
Idiots.
The Union forces suffered casualties of 8 soldiers and 4 wounded. The Confederates reported no casualties.
Of course not.
The Union officers were criticized for not sending skirmishers into front of the train. Yeah, of course you should have, which had moved slowly along the track, and for disregarding the warning given to them by a local Union sympathizer. The Battle of Vienna followed the Union defeat at the Battle of Big Bethel only a week earlier. And historian William C. Davis noted that the press were much agitated by the minor repulse at Vienna on the 17th of June, and the people were beginning to ask when the Federals would gain some victories.
Hey, that's what I've been asking, even though they ignored the one in Missouri just 2 days ago.
Yeah, they don't care about that.
I guess not. Virginia, you know.
So
I said, everybody's losing faith in the Union right now because they've been just getting their asses handed to them, and they're making the poorest of decisions.
Right.
These guys don't know what the hell they're doing.
they're not using their highly trained guys or leaving them back. No, you guys hold back. You're too important.
Not taking intelligence seriously. If some guy who comes running down the track, hey, there's Confederates right around the bend. It'll be all right.
Confederates.
Idiots. I swear, man.
According to Lincoln, there are no Confederates.
Right. We don't acknowledge them.
Right.
What do they think they are? Roman Reigns? Historian Charles Poland Jr. says the Battle of Fairfax Courthouse, the Battle of Arlington Mills, the Battle of Vienna, Virginia, and several other brief clashes in the area at this time were among the antecedents of the forthcoming First Battle at Bull Run. He also said that the battle has been cited as the first time the railroad was used in warfare.
Well, I guess.
Ever.
I guess.
I think he's saying.
Right.
Like in the history of warfare in other countries as well, which I don't think so. I think I read something. There was somewhere in another country where they supplied something or did something. Yeah. Skirmishes took place at Vienna, Virginia on July 9th, 1861 and July 17th, 1861 as Union forces began their slow march to Manassas and the first Battle of Bull Run, which was the Battle of First Manassas.
Right, to the Southerns.
Yep, we're on our way there. Battle of Bull Run.
On our way to the Battle of Bull. You know what? I think it was like a truce for both sides. Like, don't you guys mess up any railroads. Well, don't you guys mess up any railroads. You know how long it took us to get these railroads.
Right.
That's right.
Like, no matter who loses or wins, or no matter who wins, you're going to need these railroads.
Burn down all the cities you want.
Don't touch these
mess
tracks.
with railroads, especially the bridges, damn it. The railroad, which had eventually become the Washington and Old Dominion Railroad, was abandoned in 1968.
Yeah, it didn't really matter, I guess.
Right. And later turned into the Washington and Old Dominion Railroad Trail. A historical marker that the Northern Virginia Regional Park Authority erected near the trail stands at the battle site. Nice. I'd like to go there. About a quarter mile east of the crossing of the trail and Park Street.
Oh, good for them.
So it's right there.
Right there. The town of Vienna has given the name of Battle Street due to a street near the battle site. Nice. To commemorate the 100th anniversary of the battle, the town hosted in 1961, a battle reenactment that featured a steam train that operated on the Washington and Old Dominion Railroad's tracks, which were still in active use. Yeah, because they didn't get till 68. Yeah.
Right.
The town also commemorated the 125th anniversary of the battle in 86. On June 18, 2011, the town and other organizations presented a reenactment of the battle near its site to commemorate the battle's 150th anniversary. That reenactment featured a replica steam locomotive that had been leased from the town of Strasburg, Virginia for $2,500 and transported to Vienna.
Dude, war is the most gruesome thing in the whole damn world, especially a civil war. And we get a kick out of reenactment.
Yeah, man. Well, it's not a kick.
It is. People love doing it.
Right. Are there... Yeah, Civil War reenactment and Revolutionary War reenactments.
Right,
Those
they
are
do
like,
both.
Those are like huge in the United States. I don't see them doing any favelas in Afghanistan reenactments.
They
and
ain't
shit,
doing Hitler's
right.
Jewish thing reenactments.
Right, they're not fucking gassing Jews and doing all that shit, are they?
Right, come on. Did they storm Normandy? Oh, I guess that was the United States. The beaches of Normandy. Or does Vietnam have reenactments of slaughtering coalition forces?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
That's crazy. I mean, look at us. Look at us. We do reenactments of the OK Corral and shootouts in the Wild West towns and shit like that.
Battle of Alamo or whatever it was.
All that stuff. Yeah, we're a weird bunch. We're a weird bunch. But that's going to do it for the Battle of Boonville and Vienna. Coming up next week, like I said, it's the big one. We got the battles of Cole Camp on June 19th, Matthias's Point on June 27th, Hoke's Run on July 2nd, the Battle of Carthage on July 5th, Rich Mountain on July 11th, Cork's Ford on July 13th, and Blackburn's Ford on July 18th. So that's going to...
The second week of July, they're just hammering. Actually, all the first 2 weeks of July. Hammering it out.
Let's see, any of these battles. Battle of Hoke's Run was a Class D. Carthage was a Class C. Okay. Rich Mountain was a Class B.
Ooh-wee.
Blackburn's Ford was a Class C. And that'll be the last battle before the Battle of Bull Run on July 21st of 1861. So we got a lot to get to. Plus, right after that, July 25th is the Battle of Mesilla, New Mexico. First action in New Mexico.
Oh, right.
And then August 5th, the Battle of Athens and Missouri and Iowa. And then we have another Class A battle on August 10th, the Battle of Wilson's Creek. Sadly, most of those are Confederate wins at this point in time. Confederates dominate 1861, as we'll see. But we know the war is far from over for either side. But that's the Battle of Boonville and the Battle of Vienna. We'll be back next week, like I said, for all those 6 battles. And eventually the Battle of Bull Run coming up. And that's it for us for this week. We're the Mouth of Michiganders with
Bang Dang.